are from Western Michigan University, and we're going to be doing improving chapter visibility. I am Erika Tuller. I am the chapter president here at WMU.
And I'm Anthony Helms. I'm the chapter advisor at Western, and I'm also currently serving on the National Council as the vice president for chapter relations and expansion. I always enjoy this talk. I've been fortunate enough to do this with our chapter president for the last 5 years, some version of this talk at the leadership conference. And I've mixed in a couple of things. This is a combination of a couple different talks. One of the things WMU is known for, and something that I should absolutely never ever receive any credit for, is our social media. And Erika's going to talk about that. We have a very prolific social media game here that is completely student-led and student-operated. And I also took some stuff here from the great Mike Nichols. For those of y'all that don't know Mike, Dr. Nichols was a longtime historian involved in the conferences for a long time. I didn't see any of our friends from Transylvania University check in yet, but I believe he's still active down there. He did a great talk on using pictures, right? And I've always included some of his stuff in here, and I want to give him credit for that. If you don't know Mike and you've been to lots of conferences, it's probably because he was always behind the camera, and that's why you didn't have that. If we were in person, I'll always start these talks out with please asking you to get your phones out. Please have them out. You're on a screen right now, so you may not need them, but please take screenshots, take pictures of anything that is interesting to you. I know Trish has already put the slides up, but the best part about these conferences is stealing best practices from other chapters. So if there's anything that we can offer of value, please replicate and improve at your campus. So real quick, what we're going to cover today is why do we care, right? Why is this important to improve chapter visibility? The value of individual recognition for your members. I kind of argue that chapter visibility is just showing evidence of engaged members. In order to do that, you have to have engaged members. So we'll touch on that very quickly. Delivering to multiple audiences. I think we need to recognize that we have different platforms for different messages. Why it's more important this year than ever before. And then, of course, we'll close with some best practices and hopefully finish in time. We can hear some of yours as well. So getting started, why is it important? Publicity produces opportunity. I was telling Erika an example the other day of one of the first presidents I worked with at Western, who now works for a school district. But when she received recognition for doing some volunteerism event, the chapter received a local community award. She was asked to join a local neighborhood organization, the board for it, and she was receiving really professional, not just ALD, but professional board experience out in the community, and now she is working with school boards, right, as her position. So you just never know there's so much about Alpha and Delta and how you operate your chapter that should be geared towards the professional development and expanding the leadership impact of your officers and your members, and getting this publicity it begets more opportunity, right? Also increases your chapter impact, and of course the visibility both on campus and off campus is mutually beneficial, and it improves the sense of community, right? You want to get members engaged, not just together, but engaged with the community and making that impact. One of the things that we found a lot of value in lately, to be honest, we don't ever make a whole lot of money with this because the restaurants don't give us too much back, but we've been doing give back nights after induction ceremony. We found out that after seeing, we have a couple hundred members that get inducted every year. We're fortunate to be a very large chapter, but also after seeing all those people get inducted, people are less likely to stick around for cake afterwards or refreshments. And so we started doing give back nights and partnering with local restaurants to help get ALD's name out into the community and obviously raise money for good causes. This past year, it was right before the pandemic hit, so we were giving to Australia. The wildfires were raging at that time. And so it's just one idea, again, getting your name out into the community, but also getting your members together out into the community to increase that fellowship and along with the visibility. The biggest thing about individual recognition I want to say is that we know exactly how hard you work as officers and ALD members. And so, you don't get a whole lot back. Normally, going to the conference is a big reward for some of our officers at Western. And obviously we're able to do that this year. This is one of our previous chapter presidents. She has graduated in spring down here in the bottom right, Cassidy Davis. She won a lot of scholarships. I think she won 2 of ALDs, including a large graduate fellowship. She was a phenomenally involved student, lots of leadership within ALD, obviously as our president, but also in other organizations on campus, completed an honors thesis, graduated with honors, was a phenomenal student. And we were able to plug her and send this news article that WMU News, our university relations office, created about her to our hometown newspaper, plugging with the local chambers of commerce. Obviously, the chapter websites. We created a chapter website years ago. Have several social media platforms, and these are great examples, especially as you think about going into induction. Showing the visibility of your chapter, showing how active you are, is an excellent way to recruit new members, right? That should be part of your recruitment drive for induction ceremonies, is showing what your members look like, both new and getting ready to graduate, what they were able to accomplish. It shows the value of what ALD is. And Erika will talk or mention this a little bit later, but even doing things like Member of the Month, getting them out there. They love to take pictures and screenshots of their recognition they're receiving and send them back home to families and friends. And now that we're all connecting via social media, you can tag individual members and handles, so that way you're highlighting their pages as well. One thing I always like to talk about the best practices that we've stolen. As I said earlier, I kind of see visibility as showing evidence of engaged members. In order to have visibility and have that evidence, you have to have engaged members. And so for those of you all who have not yet installed a point system, I please encourage you to do that. It's a great way to keep people involved after their first year. That was a perennial problem for us, and the point system kind of fixed that. The point system we stole from a conference as a best practice. You can see the first version on the left here in the fall 2015 hard copy PDF that used to fill out. We now have on our website, you can see a screenshot of our chapter website on the right hand side. You can now go check your points right online for the members. We've really just kind of revamped and improved that process each year. But again, this is a way to keep your members engaged. I'm gonna jump in now to some of Mike's stuff. He always did this great talk about how to take pictures. Just some very basics, right? Always take action shots, and take pictures of people with people. Solo shots don't look very engaging, doesn't look like they're having fun. Most people look miserable or pretending to look happy when they're by themselves. So take pictures when they're not looking, take pictures when they're doing things. These rocks, we do have permission to spray paint, so just don't randomly do that at your campus to increase visibility. This is the rocks that we're allowed to spray paint. We take reservations for those. Don't take awkward pictures. Always assign a dedicated photographer. Like I said, if you didn't know the great Mike Nichols when he was coming to all of our conferences every year, it was because he was behind the camera and taking great shots that we've been able to use and keep for a long time to memorialize the impact of the conference. So always have somebody dedicated to do this stuff. You always want to have good pictures. This young lady, I feel bad, I stole her off a Google image. I wonder how many times this has been used for awkward picture presentations. Here's a really good example of a bad picture. We invited our provost and vice president for academic affairs to a meeting several years ago, and this is a picture that was taken and was sent to me by one of the members and said, hey, I hope you can use this. I actually could, right, as an example of a really bad picture. So here it is in our presentation. But I also want to make a note about asking VIPs, right? Asking the vice presidents, the provosts, the deans to come to your events and making sure that they're seen. This is something that I think we forget about a lot. The higher ups are busy. They're always in meetings, but guess what? Most of their meetings are not fun. Most of their meetings are trying to solve problems. And one thing that we figured out pretty quickly is that if we give them some talking points, give them some information on what they're walking into, what the meeting, the purpose of the meeting is, if it's meant to be a celebration or recognition of individuals or chapter accomplishments, being respectful of their time, inviting them ahead of time, inviting them early and getting them this information, they will show up. And every higher up we've been able to get to either speak at the induction ceremony or come to a general membership meeting like you see here. They're just so thrilled when they leave, and they always pull me aside at the end and say, I spend my entire life in meetings, and that was the best one I've been to this week. I'm excited to be there to celebrate something positive and to be with students. It's something they don't get a chance to do. Most of these folks used to be faculty, right? And they teach and they want to be around students, and they don't get that much contact. So again, just some tips on how to get them there. no matter what, this does increase your visibility. If you can get the higher ups on your side and let them recognize what Alpha Lambda Delta is, all of a sudden you'll see yourself getting mentioned in commencement speeches, graduation speeches, matriculation ceremonies about the focus that is achieving high grades in your first semester and getting that motivation to first year students. I think our friend Retha had a great example earlier about the president reaching out and just basically saying like, hey, this is your goal, first year students to be there. And so now we want to shift into multiple audiences and the platforms you need to accommodate multiple audiences. So we have 2 polls for you. Yep, there's the first one, Erika.
Yep, so we just want to see what platforms are most effective for you to communicate with your members. So like which ones are you taking advantage of? So it looks like that a majority of people say that they do use email to communicate with their members. And here at Western, we do use email as our primary source for connecting. And then from there, social media, which we'll get into both of those a little bit later. And then the second poll. So it looks like email is also another way that people are using to communicate with non-members, which I think is an important resource, especially, making sure you're remaining that professionality in the emails when communicating with them. And with that, we'll touch on that also a little bit later in the presentation.
So I do want to make a comment about press releases. I was kind of surprised that for your campus partners that you aren't using these more. If I can recommend that, well, I guess I am recommending that. I'm recommending that you use press releases more. We've seen a lot of positive reaction from, again, not just the higher ups, but from the local media when we send these press releases out. Trish and the national office do a phenomenal job of getting these to us. They come in both hard copy and you can get them in electronic form. I think it's important to do a couple of things with these, and the way we've increased our impact with the use of press releases has been to one, build relationships with the University Relations Office, figure out who your media officers are, editing the templates. They're going to do a great job. The national office does a great job of kind of getting you all the nuts and bolts, but sometimes it's important to put Western campus specific information into your press releases, so you can talk about specific majors, minors, academic colleges, maybe some other leadership opportunities that the students have taken advantage of, just to make it, again, spread that scope of what they're talking about and how it will be relevant to your specific campus. And then the advocating for a wider release and combining them, this is the biggest thing that's helped us. So advisors, if you can reach out to University Relations or what your comparable offices at your campus and ask them like, hey, we're at Western, we're 20,000 plus students, lots of sports, great fine arts, right? Like there's so much stuff going on that it can kind of get lost. And the way our chapters kind of calendar of the year goes between induction, TRO, STEMler, graduate fellowships, all those applications that come out, if we just space those out each time, it would be kind of like this, it's a constant drip, right, throughout the year. And so what we've done is we collect all the press releases throughout an entire year and then try to have a larger release that combines all of those, all that activity in the fall semester, so we can tap into that energy for the induction ceremony.
So now we're going to touch just a little bit on social media and things that we do within our social media. So for us, social media is a big part of how we are keeping our members engaged, such as we did e-board introduction posts. So it kind of lets the members know who is on their executive board, and it puts a face to a name. And then also we did senior shout outs for this last because we weren't able to have senior ceremony in the spring because of the pandemic. So that way our seniors are still feeling like they are getting recognized. And we're going to go into some of our specifics that we've done with our social media, but a lot of those will be touched on when we do, we're doing a best practice presentation tomorrow also about very specific things within our social media.
And I just want to plug this in here. Ironically, Erika and I could just have done this with our mask on because we're in the same building right now, but we can't be in the same room, under our current state orders without our mask on. And so I just want to make the argument that it cannot be more important to be engaging in virtual formats, but also just raising chapter visibility to celebrate academic success and to support each other. I was joking with the officers last week when we met. That I feel horrible for them, right? That this is part of their college experience and this is something they are having to deal with during college. As much as I feel horrible for them, I feel worse for the first year students who just showed up. And this is right here is a picture of our solution squad, which is where you go for in-person services at Western Michigan, because most of our offices are completely remote. And so as bad as I feel for the current students, I feel even worse for the newer students that just showed up, your future members, right? And so you know, as we close out this presentation and start to share some best practices, as Erika and I just wanted to stress how important it is this year because you know, because of the situation that the first year students are coming into.
And also with this, it's learning for us as officers to learning to be adaptable. We've had to learn how to put our general assembly meetings online, how to hold our executive board meetings online. So it's really learning about like adaptability, and it's showing you that you can adapt to whatever is really thrown at you in the future. And so here are some just examples from WMU, how we've been raising chapter visibility. We have ALD Tuesday, so our members send in a picture every Tuesday to get a point, and they send a picture of them wearing their ALD gear. And this year we've added a new theme to it. So we are encouraging them, as shown in the picture, to send in pictures with them wearing their masks, social distancing, just having safe practices along with that, and that's what we're posting. Our general assembly meetings have been revisited, so we are doing more of online meetings, and we're trying to encourage other organizations on campus to come into our meetings and tell our members what they're about, so that way the students are still getting exposure to other organizations on campus. And then we have also revamped our volunteer events. So we're trying to look at new ways to do volunteer opportunities that are more online or socially distanced. And then some other examples from us is we have an office space and dedicated office hours. So usually we would be in a specific room in our student center, and that's where members can come talk to us, drop off any point sheets they have. That's where we hold our interviews, hold our executive board meetings, meet with other organizations. And even this year, we are still holding office hours just virtually, and that way members can still make sure they're getting engaged with us. We have a flag tablecloth that's made out of like old shirts, so that way when we're presenting at different events, we have that nice cohesive thing for us to use. We done visibility through print, so we go around campus and we chalk, like follow us on our social media, check your emails, like if you're a first year student and you got like that 3.5 your first semester. And then also we use MHS, and we make sure that our emails are concise but informative. And then also our effective social media usage, we survey our members on different things that they want to see and other volunteer events that they wish were happening. And then also we make sure, like with our thank you and business cards, that they include our official RSO email address, so that way anyone who needs to get in contact with us is sent to one general area where anyone from the executive board can answer. And then we also are encouraging like members to apply for different awards, and then also we apply for different awards on campus that Western holds. And well, thank you for your time. Does anyone have any specific questions? You can either type them in the chat or unmute yourself.
What are some of the awards that you give out?
So we specifically give out, we do member of the month, and then so that is the person who we see that has been very engaged throughout that month. They get recognition on our social media, on our website, and then at the end of the year or semester, depending on how many we have, we pull them all together and give them like a $500 scholarship per se. And that's kind of encouraging the members to be more engaged.
That's great. And then, so you have this point system, which Trish just put a link, or she did, to the social media. Do you have a web page with all those points?
It's separate.
Maybe, is that part of there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The new point system, the updated version, is on the website, which Trish shared with everybody.
Okay, great. Yeah, good. Thanks. So but back to sort of the points and monitoring. So there's a question specifically about attendance at events or meetings. How do you sort of quantify that, or do they sign in, or how does that all work?
Yeah, so for events, whoever is hosting the event, one of our volunteer coordinators, they will be responsible for taking attendance and then inputting the points themselves. And then usually when we have general assembly meetings, when we'd all be meeting in person, we actually have a swiper, and the students will swipe their Western ID and it automatically gets tracked. And then we'll have someone at the end of the meeting put in all those points on our website.
Yeah, the swipers are your student IDs. You know, check with your auxiliary services folks on campus. They usually have, there's usually oftentimes technology on campus that IDs can be swiped, similar to if they're going into the food court or something, that you can track student activity attendance. Another quick question, suggestions for getting the word out to freshmen who are struggling to find community on campus, even in virtual or especially in virtual. Worried that they won't know about Alpha Lambda Delta if they're eligible, even if you're back in person on campus.
Well, I can tell you one thing that I've already written down to steal from from today's events is Dr. Huffman from Purdue in the letter to advisors. You know, that's advising is my background, so I've I've maintained those relationships across campus, and it's just a great idea. I feel really silly for not doing this yet. So I will be reaching out to all the advisors, especially before registration, right? For spring, when they're gonna get that big rush of students, all first-year students rushing into their office to try to figure out how to register for next term. And so I wanna get this information to them before that. And I really like the idea. I think I mentioned this earlier with Retha, who just had the challenge, right, from the president saying this is your goal, right? And how to get the higher ups to embrace a message like that. You know, students will still listen, right, when the big voices start talking, and if we can get that rich plug early on, that's going to be helpful. So I think that's how I'm going to try to tackle it from the advisor perspective this year.
So yeah, I mean, Chris, it's not necessarily the word out to freshmen directly, but it is through the folks that they are most likely to talk to and come in contact with and work closely with on campus. So that was the idea. I don't know if Trish could post it again. It's way further up in chat hours ago, but we posted a link of a sample letter Purdue University uses, and that's what Anthony's referring to. Quickly, tips for curating the pictures. So if you get all these pictures from members, especially if you're completely online, how do you curate all those pictures?
Well, I think the group ones are fun. Well, I'll let Erika answer, but I like the group ones are fun, where you have the grid view, right? And you just show a kind of overwhelmed with the number of engaged members. But yeah, go ahead, Erika.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say. And then also, like, when we get all of our pictures sent into us, we have a specific spot in our Google Drive where we make sure they stay, so that way when our historian is doing our scrapbook at the end of the year, that she can pull from there, and then whoever's doing social media can also pull from those pictures.
Great. Okay, this is a great example of how we might have some questions we can't get to. And as Sharon mentioned earlier, we are very, very committed to getting everyone's questions answered. So even if you don't get your question answered, we're going to curate all the questions and get answers posted. So we are going to wrap this one up so that we can give time for our next presentation, our next presenters for 3 o'clock. Thank you so much to Anthony and Erika. It's great to have a student present. We love it. Students are presenting all afternoon tomorrow, so, and I know you are too. So thank you so much for everyone participating. We are going to mute ourselves and take a quick transition break.